When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contracts. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
This content may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion advised.
I screamed for help, hoping there's a chance someone would be walking past. He covered my mouth, telling me to shut the door. I bit down on his hand and he pulled back, but he pushed the knife a little harder against my sweatshirt.
He made me feel so uncomfortable. I don't remember what he said at first, but he started talking to me. He offered me some candy and coins and said I should come with him. I froze.
From Killer Podcasts, true tales of horror, bizarre happenings, unexplainable events. This is Disturbed. Hello, and welcome back to the show. This week, we have 4 creepy experiences that will keep you looking over your shoulder. So sit back, listen closely, and dive into the horror. In our first story, a double date gets terrifyingly sadistic. Narrated by Kari Christensen, from Reddit user Narwhal Wonderful.
When I was about 23, my friend Emily was using Tinder and matched with a guy. She sent him a photo of me, and he told her his friend was interested. Before I knew it, we were planning a double date. Their idea of a first hangout, a hike. The guys picked us up and drove us to a desert-like trail where you could see the city and neighborhoods from far off. I already felt a little uneasy, but I hadn't promised anything. I was just along for the ride. We started climbing higher up the trail. At some point, Emily and her date walked ahead, turned a corner, and disappeared down the hill. And that left me alone with his friend. And the second they were out of sight, I felt his arm wrap around me. Something pressed against my neck. And I looked down and I realized it was a pocket knife. I let out a nervous laugh, probably pure shock. He actually grinned and said, "Oh, you laughed. You're my kind of girl." And then he slipped the knife back in his pocket and kept his arm around me like nothing happened. I barely made it through the rest of the hike, but after we finished, they brought us back to his family's house. I left my sweatshirt there by accident. And after we left, he sent a picture of it to Emily saying I'd get it back next time I came over. I told Emily what happened as soon as we got into the car to leave, and we never saw them again. In hindsight, it's weird how calm I was. But hey, I'm just glad I'm alive.
In a seemingly regular suburb, a strange truck stalks its prey. Narrated by Emerich Jimenez from Reddit user I Am Lion.
When I was 5, my family watched our friend's house and their dog for a few days. I remember always begging to walk the dog alone. In my mind, it was one of those things big kids did, and I wanted to prove I could handle it. Finally, my day came. I happily set off plastic bags and leash in hand as my parents watched me leave from the porch. When I reached the end of the driveway, I saw a red truck down the street, speeding out of view. I thought it was just heading towards the highway, but it kept reappearing. Every time I crossed the street, I'd see it 1 or 2 streets down, zooming past. It was looping the block, probably on a joyride. The dog finally found a spot to use the restroom, so our walk stopped. A moment later, I heard the growl of the truck's engine pull up behind us. It stopped just feet away from me, in the middle of the road. I couldn't see the driver, so I was freaking out. The car was just waiting. So many thoughts rushed through my head. What did it want with me? Was it here to kidnap me? Do I scream? Do I run? After a few moments, I chose to make a break for it. I turned onto another street and bolted, whistling for the dog to follow. The truck's engine revved as it sped up to chase me, but having to turn the corner slowed it down just enough to give me a head start. I ran as fast as I could, making another turn back onto the street where we were staying. Adrenaline rushed through my body as I heard the truck get closer and closer. Right as it reached me, we got in view of my parents and I waved them down. The truck must have noticed, but I was too focused on getting home to pay attention to what it was doing. I reached the house and rushed inside to hide. When I gathered the courage to peek out the window, I saw my parents talking to the driver. I could tell my parents were mad, but I never found out what they talked about or why the driver was chasing me. I think they wanted to shield me from knowing how much danger I was actually in.
Welcome back to Disturbed. At a jazz fest, a disheveled man pounces at a young boy. Narrated by Mitch Campell from Reddit user OwnRip128.
This happened when I was 7 years old. It was a hot summer weekend, and I was at a jazz festival on the other side of the country with my parents and cousins. The festival was peaceful. All kinds of people, but mostly older folk enjoying the music, food, stalls, and sunshine. There were security guards patrolling the area, and overall it felt pretty safe. I didn't know a thing about jazz, but I was mostly hanging out with my cousin, who was close to my age. I remember the grilled food and the ridiculous amount of soda because of the heat. It was getting late, and one of the final bands was playing. I had to pee, so I went with my uncle and my cousin to the bathroom. After I finished, I stepped aside to wait for them just a few yards away. That's when he appeared. An older man, maybe around 60 years old, walked up to me. He looked filthy, smelled awful, and his clothes were stained and torn. His face was bright red from sunburn. His nose looked rotten, and he had no teeth. He made me feel so uncomfortable, but I didn't want to be rude, so I stayed put. I don't remember what he said at first, but he started talking to me. He offered me some candy and coins and said I should come with him. I froze. It felt very strange because nothing like that has ever happened to me before, and I didn't understand what he meant by that. I said something like, I don't want to go. I need to go to my parents. He repeated himself more aggressively this time, with a very creepy look in his eyes. I kept glancing at the entrance to the bathroom, hoping my uncle would finally come out. Then he suddenly grabbed my arm and began to aggressively yank me toward him. I immediately screamed and burst into tears, catching the attention of two men nearby. They rushed over and confronted the creepy guy, eventually tackling him to the ground where he tried to run away. My uncle and cousin got out of the bathroom right as this was happening, and my uncle jumped in to help pin the guy on the ground. Security showed up a minute later and escorted my attacker out of the festival. My uncle took us back to my parents and I told them what happened. My mom was absolutely horrified and my dad was furious. Oddly enough, the police never came. I don't know if anyone filed an official report, but the old man had already been taken away, so that was that. I was too young to understand the full weight of what almost happened. I wasn't traumatized by it, at least not in the way that stuck with me emotionally. But I've always avoided drunk or sketchy-looking people ever since. Now that I'm older, I sometimes think about how bad that scenario could have played out. And if I ever have kids of my own, you can bet I'll be very clear with them. Never talk to strangers. Ever.
Disturbed will return in a moment. Finally, a late-night date is just inches away from becoming a crime scene. Narrated by Bodhi Crowe, from Disturbed listener Joshua.
Okay, so this happened about 2 years ago in November. Halloween had just passed, and let's just say I was going through some stuff, so I decided to try and distract myself by talking to people on dating apps. I was 19 and had never tried it before, so I was pretty naive. But within 20 minutes of downloading a pretty well-known LGBT app, I got a message from a guy. He looked pretty cute and was nearby, so I decided, why not? We started talking about random things, and then he asked if I wanted to meet up. I told him I wasn't looking for that kind of company, and he assured me we would just be talking and getting to know each other. Like I said, I was pretty naive and feeling bold, so I agreed to meet him. I didn't have a car at the time, so it was a pretty long walk to the location, but about 30 minutes later, I got there. I texted him, "Hey, where are you?" And he told me he was at the back of a parking lot 20 feet away. I looked up and spotted his car. Now, I know it looked sketchy meeting up with a stranger at 3 a.m. in a parking lot, but he seemed nice enough, so I decided to walk up to the car and get in. I left the door open just a little to calm my nerves. We talked for a bit, and he's kind of just listening. I started to get antsy and uncomfortable. I cut him off mid-conversation saying, "I think I gotta head back. My family's gonna wonder where I went." But before I could open the door to leave, he asked if I could check if there was some tissues in the car door. I turned to my body to look, told him there was nothing, and next thing I know, his arm snaked around my body and he pulled me back. I screamed, "What the fuck?" but paused because I felt something lightly pushing at my chest. I looked down, and it's a fucking hunting knife. I started to panic and told him to let me go. I screamed for help, hoping there's a chance someone would be walking past. But as I got one yell out, he covered my mouth, telling me to shut the door. I bit down on his hand and he pulled back, but he pushed the knife a little harder against my sweatshirt. I tried to wiggle out of his grasp, and as I was flailing, I looked into this man's eyes for a split second, and I swear, there was nothing behind them. He told me to shut the door again, and if I didn't, he might have to hurt me. My fight or flight kicked in, and I knew it was going to be me or him. I grabbed the hand he was holding the knife in and pushed it away, but the blade caught my hand, slicing an inch of my palm. I ignored the pain and fought his grip with everything I had, pushing and pushing until I created just enough space to squeeze out. I kicked his car door out of the way and ran like I've never ran before. I headed to the closest house and started banging on the door as I watched him start the car and speed off. A couple answered the door and asked if I was okay. I pleaded with them to call 911, and they did. 20 minutes later, the police arrived, and I gave them my story. Unfortunately, the crazy dude that attacked me deleted his account, and the cops told me they couldn't do much because it was probably a catfish account. During all of this, my hand was bleeding like crazy. I went to the hospital and they stitched me up, and now I have a scar that serves as a reminder. I have no idea if he ever got caught, but I'll never be that naive again.
Want more Disturbed? Check out our Patreon for member-exclusive content, early merch access, and other cool perks. I'm your host, Doug Bailey, and this has been Disturbed, a production of Killer Podcasts and part of the Evergreen Network. For more paranormal and true crime shows, visit killerpodcasts.com. Follow our social channels at Disturbed Podcast on Instagram or Disturbed_pod on Twitter. If you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing and reviewing on your favorite listening platform. Share your own true horror story at DisturbedPodcast.com. Music by Epidemic Sound and by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. Our producer is Declan Roars. Audio engineering by Nathan Corson, Will Pritz, and Sean Rule Hoffman. Executive producer Bridget Coyne. Until next time, stay safe out there.